People everywhere are starting to listen to him. He's going on French, British, Italian, Japanese television.
This is the Wide World of Weingarten.
Welcome back, Wide World of Weingarten, Monday, November 29th, here in Los Angeles. It's about 12:30, post-Thanksgiving edition. Had a couple nice winners on the college side this extended football weekend. I had Ole Miss in the under. The under moved against me. I bet it like under 64. It closed 66. Stayed well under. That was a nice win on Thanksgiving. Utah State on Friday was an easy winner. I think it closed minus 17 against New Mexico, who's starting a graduate assistant at quarterback, who also happened to be 5'6". Saturday, Southern Miss took care of FIU pretty easily, although things got bumpy for a minute in the second quarter, and FIU cut it to a one-score game. It still wasn't much of a sweat overall for a 20-point win. Ended with Southern Miss kneeing on the goal line instead of scoring again. Nice wins there. The biggest swing of my college football weekend, though, however, was actually one of the biggest swings I've had in a while. Was Alabama Auburn. I had under 20 points at like 50-1 to win a lot of money, and it was 10-3. The score was 10-3 with a minute left. Auburn had the ball. All Tank Bigsby had to do was run out of bounds. He did not. Auburn punted back to Alabama, and in the remaining minute, they put together a pretty good drive that is going to probably win Bryce Young the Heisman. But yeah, first 59 minutes of that game was an amazing defensive game plan from Derek Mason, Auburn's defensive coordinator, and then that last minute was, I don't know, I guess I would just describe it as unfortunate, but the game ended 24-22 in 3 or 4 overtimes. I don't even know. So that sucked. I had a bunch of alt unders because, you know, the under was like, was it 60 something? So I was betting it down, you know, every touchdown under from, you know, 57, 52, 49, 48, 40, 41, going on, 33, 29 was probably the lowest. When it actually got down to 19.5, I bet the over, but by then I was maxed out, so you know, it was really only so much I could do at that point. But yeah, the overtime not just killed the under 20, but it killed most of those alt unders. So big swing there, which really sucked. But that's just how the gambling on sports works. It's not the first or the last time something like that's happened. It's you know, like you don't really lose sleep over it or anything. You just kind of think about it for a minute. You're like, damn, I was so close to a big score. And I ended up losing some money, but fortunately, like I've said before, it's a lot easier to lose after you've won as opposed to just straight up losing or posting up and losing. That's always going to suck more. The NFL on Sunday wasn't great, as it's been lately. My 2 bets were the Vikings and the Rams, and those disappointed me. The Cowboys killed my teasers on Thursday, so I didn't go back up on the teasers after that. You know, overall disappointing week in the NFL. Fortunately, I have some futures in the NFL that are you know, keeping me involved, but my sides have not been great in the NFL lately. I can attest to that when I look through some of my results. Riley to USC was some big news yesterday while football was going on. Obviously, Pete Carroll not coming back to USC. That was always a long shot, a really long shot. But I guess with the speed of the coaching changes, Carroll wasn't coming back to SC this week or this month even. So they decided Lincoln Riley was available, and they got him. And I don't know if you were paying attention, Saturday night after Bedlam, Riley was quoted saying, "Let me get one thing straight," or whatever. He said, "I'm not going to LSU." And I did notice that quote. I said, yeah, but he didn't say he's staying at Oklahoma either. So on Sunday, when the news broke that that Riley's headed to USC, I wasn't surprised. I was surprised that it came together so quick, but obviously it's a big deal. It'll move the needle for Pac-12 recruiting and California. A lot of California recruits have been getting away from USC since the Pete Carroll years. So I guess there will probably be some big recruiting battles. Some big commits have already flipped and left Oklahoma. A couple have announced they want to go to USC, which isn't surprising with coaching changes of this magnitude. You do get a lot of prospect movement, so nothing super surprising there, like I said. But it will be a very, very cool thing to follow for football, for college football, and for recruiting. You'll get a lot of USC is back stuff, but he's really going to have to hit the ground running because the expectations for USC are always so high, and it's also important to point out. Everyone's going to compare him to Pete Carroll, which always happens when you take the USC job. But remember that Carroll won his first national championship with Matt Leinart, which was a guy that he didn't recruit. He was already there, as were a whole bunch of the other players on that first SC national championship team. So the issue with SC, a lot of it has to do with coaching, not talent. The guys that are there are all great players. SC doesn't have a problem recruiting. They don't get bums. They still get 4 or 5 stars, on the rival rankings. So Riley's going to just have to go in there and coach these guys up. And, it wouldn't surprise me to see USC win the Pac-12 next year. But we have a lot of time to get into college football offseason when it's the college football offseason. So, the biggest mess of the week with other stuff going on besides football. The Joburg Open got underway, finished the first round. There were some brief weather delays. Then this South African COVID strain popped up and screwed everything up. There were flight restrictions out of South Africa. A bunch of the European, British players immediately pulled out. I think you had like 16 or 18 withdrawals during the second round. Became a giant mess, more weather delays. The tour staff, which is UK based, also wanted to get home so they didn't have to quarantine, potentially miss 2 weeks, risk missing Christmas with their families. So the tournament got cut to 54 holes, except again the weather continued to be uncooperative, and they ended up canceling the third round and declared the winner after 36 holes tournament champion. And Thurston Lawrence, who I talked about on the show last week, won from anywhere he was available from 150 to 1, 200 to 1, might have even been higher than 200 to 1. I just know I didn't bet him because I took 3 other guys and I didn't think I wanted a 200 to 1 shot, so I blew that one. On top of the Alabama thing, I can say that missing a big golf winner on a guy that I probably would have normally bet was slightly disappointing again. But you can't really focus too much on what you didn't do. He was 16 to 1 after the first round. I think he was down about 2 to 1 on Betfair after the second round, but I couldn't find live betting. It actually got pulled after the first round with the weather delays and all the problems. I think a lot of books took it down. I couldn't find anywhere with it, actually. I even tried Bovada, and they didn't have it. I mean, that was the depth I was willing to go to try to get a live bet on Thurston Lawrence when I saw he was down to 16 to 1. But yeah, I blew it there. There was no live betting, so I couldn't even get down more money at bad odds. And to top everything off, I went 0-3-1 on my golf matchups that that were declared over after 36 holes, and I went 0-4 on some Lithuanian basketball on Friday. So that was disappointing. It's fortunate that I had those college football winners. You could win a lot of money on college football. You can get down a lot on college football. You cannot get down a lot on Lithuanian basketball. So it evens out, as they say. It doesn't really even out, but at least the wins kind of took care of most of the losses. Could have been worse. Always could be worse. But I definitely feel like when I review the stuff I did last week, I left an awful lot of money on the table. And some of it was just circumstance. And, like I said, it's not worth dwelling on. You kind of just review how you played and what you could do better. And it's like football, you just move on, and we're on to Cincinnati, as Bill Belichick would say. In this case, we're on to MLB free agency, where Max Scherzer just signed with the Mets, shaking everything up. 3 years, $130 million. Marcus Semien, huge contract with the Rangers. I think he got like $175 million for 7 years or something. There's a soft deadline in place to get deals done today or tomorrow, so teams can do physicals, get contracts officially signed before this lockout starts. Nobody knows how long the lockout's gonna last. It might really extend into 2022, the way baseball is negotiated. And Scott Boras has 5 of the 8 guys on the MLBPA executive committee, so he'll have a big say in the CBA, and it will have to be advantageous for his clients. With 5/8 of the board in his control, we can definitely see a extended lockout if certain conditions aren't going to be met. But if there is baseball in 2022, the top of the rotation in Queens is going to be DeGrom and Scherzer. That's as good a combination as, I guess, anything in the history of baseball, give or take. With health, obviously, with those two guys healthy, there's enough mileage left in both of them for a Mets championship run. But let's hold off on more MLB free agency talk until tomorrow. Like I said, there's an expected flurry of moves coming today. I wouldn't be surprised if Corey Seager signs next couple hours, possibly Correa. But I would definitely like to see what what the other teams plan on doing in the next 12 hours or so, and then we'll talk about this stuff tomorrow. But NL Cy Young, obviously the market's going to be Scherzer, DeGrom, top 2 to start the season. That was just a quick thing I thought about when I heard this signing. So $130 million for Scherzer. Sorry to see him leave Southern California. I was hoping he would sign with the Angels, actually, and anchor the rotation with Ohtani. But if he had to leave, I guess the Mets is a pretty good spot for him. It's a pretty good spot for baseball. All right, welcome back. Gonna recap the NFL games from the weekend and tell you what I saw and how it affects player futures. We're gonna run through all the NFL stuff real quick, like I usually do on Mondays if you listened before. Let's see, game number 1, Bears 16, Lions 14. Goff has now played a full regular season without Sean McVay as his head coach. He is 0-16-1 as a starter. Goff is on a new team. His offensive coordinator and head coach still don't trust him to throw the ball downfield. It's kind of like he's there starting by default this year. I wouldn't expect him to be back. The Bears have a lot of things to work on. I thought this would be the worst game on Thanksgiving, but I was wrong. The Raiders 36, Cowboys 33. This was the worst officiated game I've watched in a long time. It was awful. It was a game with over 36 million people watching. I think one of the most watched NFL games, 36 million people on TV. I think that would make it one of the most watched games ever. And the refs were on screen. It seemed like they were there half the time. This was a big win for sportsbooks. Crushed all the Dallas teasers going into the weekend. Crushed a lot of survivor pools. It was slightly unexpected. The score was unexpected. I did not expect 69 points in this game. I did not expect Cowboys to lose. I certainly didn't expect them to lose. Excuse me, giving up, like I said, 36 points to the Raiders. The impact on the awards here, I think we can stop talking about Mike McCarthy for Coach of the Year. He's now out with COVID. We'll be missing Thursday night's game. Dak took a step back for MVP. 32-47, 375 yards, 2 touchdowns. Doesn't really hurt, but the loss is what kills him. I mean, you can only lose so many games and win the MVP when other guys are, winning more games than you. I don't see Dak winning. The only award the Cowboys can really lock in right now is Micah Parsons, Defensive Rookie of the Year. He has another sack. He's been a top 5 edge rusher this season. Unfortunately, he's going to kill some of my other Rookie of the Year tickets, but that was somewhat expected when you're trying to fade a favorite. He looks to be a deserving favorite, deserving winner. Trevon Diggs, he dropped a bit for Defensive Player of the Year, back to 7-1 with the Cowboys' loss. Like I've said before, his case rise or falls with his interceptions. Needs more. It does say something to me though that the Raiders targeted the other side of the field. Unfortunately, they just did so with too much success. That was a lot of points. The points hurts Diggs a lot. But back to what I was saying about Cowboys Raiders, I thought this was one of the worst games I watched all season. High scoring doesn't necessarily mean good football, and in this case, I was unimpressed with the Cowboys as a potential playoff team. Not being able to play defense at home on Thanksgiving versus the Raiders is concerning. I do think the refs kept the Raiders in the game with those pass interference calls, but like I said, this was just overall one of the worst officiated, least enjoyable games I watched in a while. And it's amazing that 36 million people tuned in for what was essentially a bad football game. The Bills 31, Saints 6. I thought the Saints would play better. It's pretty clear Trevor Siemian is not the guy in New Orleans, and Taysom Hill must be really hurt to have not been out there. I'd really like to see what Hill can do before the season gets away from the Saints. Getting there at the moment. Josh Allen for the Bills had 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's the second favorite for MVP at plus 450 behind Brady. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I think we could see his odds drop if the Patriots beat the Bills, or we could see him become the favorite if the Bills beat the Patriots, especially if they beat them twice. Saints really don't have much of an identity without their quarterback, without Jameis Winston right now. Looking like a lost season coming up for the Saints. They're running out of time to turn things around. Bengals 41, Steelers 10. Got a couple things to talk about in regards to this game. The Bengals stomped their division rival Pittsburgh Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger probably should have been pulled at halftime, but they left him in to throw 41 passes. I was really surprised about that. This was a game where I could say I did not understand Mike Tomlin's coaching decisions, especially in the second half. Steelers have now given up 41 points or more in back-to-back games for the first time since 1989. Joe Mixon carried it 28 times, 156 yards, 2 touchdowns. T. Higgins, 8 targets compared to 3 for Jamar Chase. He's taken a step back behind Mac Jones. Jones up to like minus 300 for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I would say this race is pretty close to over. Bengals at 7-4. That makes Zach Taylor a legitimate contender for Coach of the Year, up there with Kingsbury in Arizona and Bill Belichick, who I don't think is going to win. More on Belichick in a minute. Trey Hendrickson, the Bengals defensive end. Trey Hendrickson came over from New Orleans this offseason. He doesn't get as much credit as, say, Matt Judon or Myles Garrett. He has 10.5 sacks this year. He has 24 since the start of 2020, putting him behind only T.J. Watt and Myles Garrett. Hendrickson was responsible for all 3 of the Steelers' turnovers on Sunday with a strip sack and 2 interceptions because of the pressure he put on Roethlisberger. 35-1 for Defensive Player of the Year at DraftKings. I might have to look more into that this week. Probably more on that tomorrow. I don't know if I necessarily want to add him, but he's one of those guys who is not getting nearly as much respect as he should for the way he's playing and the way he's contributing on a potential playoff team. And I mentioned before, or I don't know if I've mentioned this, but Zach Taylor, I think Zach Taylor has a serious case for Coach of the Year just when you consider what he's done. This is his 3rd season in Cincinnati, and the team he took over in 2019 versus the team he has now. He really deserves credit for the development, and I'll talk more about that. I guess I have some notes on it down here. Just to go through the rest of these games real quick. Jets 21, Texans 14. I'm just skipping this one. There's not much to say about the Jets or the Texans. Come back next year. Bucks 38, Colts 31. Brady goes 25-34, 226 yards, touchdown and interception, and we're going to get to hear about why he's the best for another week. Leonard Fournette had 4 touchdowns, 3 rushing and a receiving touchdown. Good job. We got some playoff Lenny this week. Colts had a lot of opportunities to win this game. They couldn't get stops on defense. Bucks only punted 4 times. Jonathan Taylor, the new co-favorite for Offensive Player of the Year, had 97 total yards and a touchdown. He's gonna overtake Cooper Kupp. Falcons 21, Jaguars 14. Trevor Lawrence continues to waste his rookie season. Well, on a slightly better team, Cordell Patterson, he had 16 carries, 108 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had he was the highest graded running back this last weekend. He'd really be in contention for Offensive Player of the Year on a better team. Fortunately, we're not gonna see this happen on the Falcons, but for somebody who's been around for a pretty long NFL career at this point, Cordell Patterson is putting together a Offensive Player of the Year level season for a bad team, but a lot of people knew he always had this talent in him. It just took the right situation for him to produce. The Urban Meyer experiment in Jacksonville continues to disappoint. Not much to say there. I'm skeptical if we're going to see him for another season. The Dolphins 33, Panthers 10. Cam Newton threw for 92 yards, 2 interceptions, got pulled early behind an offensive line that wasn't doing a good job protecting him. Tua Tagovailoa actually played pretty well, 27 for 31, 230 yards and a touchdown. He completed 81.8% of his passes on Sunday, became just the 4th quarterback in NFL history to complete at least 80% of his passes in back-to-back games with at least 30 attempts. Tua is actually 2nd in the NFL in completion percent this year at 70.5. Jalen Waddle, his former teammate at Alabama, 9 receptions on 10 targets for 137 yards and a touchdown. I think we should walk back some of that Tua being a bust talk. He's not necessarily reached Justin Herbert's level yet, but since there was a lot of Herbert versus Tua talk when they were both drafted, it's important to point out now that Tua's had 16 games as a starter. He's had 3,515 yards, 21 touchdowns, 11 interceptions with a 90.5 passer rating, and 6 rushing touchdowns. Those numbers aren't terrible. Would be pretty foolish to give up on that. The Dolphins probably not a playoff team this year, but I do think Tua probably gets another year at quarterback, and they probably got lucky not making a huge trade for Deshaun Watson and seeing how his situation plays out. I would stick with Tua, having seen those numbers. You invested in him. Give him some time to learn how to be an NFL quarterback. The Patriots 36, Titans 13. Mac Jones, 23 for 32, 310 yards, 2 touchdowns. His 8th win of the season, more than Herbert or Kyler Murray when they won the Offensive Rookie of the Year. We could probably pencil him in for Offensive Rookie of the Year now, but I would really like to see a win over the Bills. 2 wins, and we can write it in pen. Matt Judon, another sack. He does everything Myles Garrett does, except he's doing it on a winning team. He's down to 8-1 for Defensive Player of the Year. Might be some value there with Aaron Donald, the Rams losing 3 straight. I think Judon might be the biggest threat to Myles Garrett at the moment. If you don't think Trevon Diggs is going to win, if you don't think TJ Watt's going to win on a bad team, Judon might be the biggest threat for Defensive Player of the Year. Then there's Bill Belichick, and he's getting a lot of hype for Coach of the Year right now. He's down to 3-1, and the favorite at DraftKings. I don't think Bill Belichick is going to win Coach of the Year, and I think it's insulting to Belichick to give him Coach of the Year, and to say that this year is better than any of the other years he's coached. That's implying that Bill Belichick doesn't constantly coach at the highest level. If he's Coach of the Year, he should be the Coach of the Year every year. He's the best coach in the NFL. He's the best coach in all of football. He's one of the best coaches of all time. So I don't necessarily think he should win Coach of the Year this year. I think Cliff Kingsbury has a decent case for what he's doing in Arizona with his offense. With and without Kyler Murray in the lineup. And like I mentioned, Zach Taylor coming off a 41-10 blowout of the division rival Steelers. I think Taylor deserves more consideration, especially when you consider the 2019 Bengals team he took over was 2-14 and then 4-11 in 2020, and he's got them to 7-4 in the hunt for a playoff spot. I think that's very impressive to do that in Cincinnati. And it's not to say that Bill Belichick, what he's doing is not impressive. What Bill Belichick always does is impressive. That's why he's Bill Belichick. But truly, I think Belichick deserves General Manager of the Year for drafting Mac Jones, for signing Matt Judon, for signing Kendrick Bourne, for all the moves he's made to rebuild the Patriots, drafting Christian Barmore in the second round, another guy who is impact producer his rookie year. I think General Manager of the Year is a more worthy award for Belichick than Coach of the Year, but that's not a betting award. There is a General Manager of the Year award. It's just not a betting thing. But as far as Coach of the Year goes, I don't think Bill Belichick is the Coach of the Year. I think Bill Belichick is, if you give Bill Belichick Coach of the Year, you have to say he's always the Coach of the Year because he's always the best coach in football. So I think this award goes to somebody like Zach Taylor, who's built the team back up from 2-14 to a playoff contender. I think that's more impressive than anything Belichick's doing. No disrespect to the master, but yeah. So going on to one of Belichick's former teams, Giants 13, Eagles 7. I thought this was an incredibly disappointing game for the Eagles and for Jalen Hurts, who threw 3 interceptions, especially knowing that Dallas lost on Thursday, and this was an opportunity for the Eagles to really push back into the playoff race. They showed up and did not do much, especially there was a drive right before halftime that they came away with 0 points. This was just a bad game. Got to move on, but the Eagles still get to play the Jets next week. Hopefully they can bounce back there. They get Washington twice. They get Dallas the final week of the season. But this was a very winnable game for the Eagles. They threw it away. I would not, however, give up on Jalen Hurts. I thought about it. I've waffled a couple times. But if you look at his numbers through his first 16 career starts, he's comparable to Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. So the Eagles do really miss the playoffs this year, but he's on my short list for MVP, Offensive Player of the Year guys in 2022. Let's see if there's some development, some positive development to finish the season, other than his rushing, which is great, but relatively unsustainable. It's only going to take a couple big hits to make Jalen Hurts stop running the way he is. Broncos 28, Chargers 13. The Broncos drop the Chargers at home, get to 6-5, and keep the AFC West in a knife fight like battle. Every year there's one division that gets really violent and physical down the stretch, and the AFC West is delivering so far this year. The Chiefs lead the way 7-4. Chargers, Broncos, Raiders all tied at 6-5 right behind them. I expect this division to be in play coming down to week 18. It's still weird to say week 18 instead of week 17. The Broncos, every other week it seems, I changed my mind on them. They beat Dallas, put up a dud the next week, and come back and beat the Chargers. So they're really a quite schizophrenic team lately. And they don't seem to be missing Von Miller, holding the Chargers at 13 points without him. The Broncos defense overall held Justin Herbert to 303 yards on 44 attempts, 2 interceptions. Probably knocked Herbert out of the MVP race. Patrick Surtain had both of those interceptions. Shut down his side of the field as cornerback. He's probably not going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year against Parsons, unfortunately. Odafe Owe and Patrick Surtain both deserve recognition, but unfortunately, Micah Parsons is playing like a top 5 edge rusher, so can't expect much out there. The Broncos, though, I write them off every other week, and I think this is the week I'll probably be like, okay, they're back in it, so let's see if they can sustain some momentum and see what we're talking about the AFC West next week. The Packers 36, Rams 28. This line moved towards the Rams all week, went from +2 to Rams -2.5 at game time. Didn't matter. Rams played from behind the entire time. Stafford looked like the Detroit Lions, Matt Stafford in Green Bay. Just like I said, playing from behind the whole game. Unimpressed. I expected both quarterbacks coming into this game with injuries. I was surprised at the scoring. Turnovers probably helped that a little bit. But a high-scoring game for a game with 2 old injured quarterbacks. The Packers moved to 9-3. They're on track to win the NFC North. The Rams down to 7-4, and they're all of a sudden with 3 straight losses, no guarantee to even make the playoffs. With games remaining at the Cardinals, at the Vikings, at the Ravens. Vikings, Ravens back to back, and 49ers to finish the season. That's 4 more very, very challenging games with no guaranteed wins. We could definitely see the Rams miss the playoffs. Matt Stafford, throwing under pressure this year, has a Pro Football Focus grade of 39.5. It's worse than Trevor Lawrence. Stafford has 6 turnovers the last 3 games, 5 of them interceptions, 3 of them for defensive touchdowns. Rams need to get that under control. They're obviously missing what Robert Woods brings to that offense, leadership, whatever. Cooper Kupp has 7 receptions for 96 yards, his 3rd straight week without a touchdown. Going to hurt him. That's going to hurt him for Offensive Player of the Year if it hasn't killed him already. Wide receivers are usually drawing dead for this award to begin with. But Kupp, only the 2nd highest graded wide receiver to begin with this year, behind Devontae Adams. And a reminder that nobody knows how to book the Offensive Player of the Year award. I would say Jonathan Taylor, probably the guy right now. But we'll probably just move on to we'll deal with Offensive Player of the Year later this week. 49ers 34, Vikings 26. Kirk Cousins, this ends the Kirk Cousins MVP debate. 238 yards and a painful early interception that led to a 49ers touchdown was too much for the Vikings to overcome. No Dalvin Cook. Looks like he's going to miss extended time. Not likely going to catch the Packers. Vikings, we can call them a fringe playoff team. That's being nice. The 49ers, on the other hand, moved to 6-5. They're back in the playoff hunt. Deebo Samuel making a run for Offensive Player of the Year as a hybrid running back wide receiver. best player in that 49ers offense. We'll talk more about him tomorrow when I do more player future stuff. The Ravens Sunday Night Football 16, Browns 10. Now I thought that David Njoku touchdown was not a touchdown. It was kind of ridiculous that they called it a touchdown. If it wasn't for that Raiders Cowboys game, I would say that was probably one of the worst calls of the week. But when you compare anything to what I think was the awful quality of that Cowboys Raiders game, wasn't so bad, but clearly looked like that ball hit the ground. Then Lamar Jackson, he threw 4 interceptions, led both teams in rushing yards. Probably not going to win the MVP with a 4 interception game like that, but another win gets the Ravens to 8 wins. I'm still interested on Lamar Jackson at a big price. I see 16-1. I need higher than that if I'm going to bet on him. I do think when you look at his numbers, you see 15 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Not great, but Tom Brady has 9 interceptions. So does Matt Stafford. Josh Allen has 10. And none of them have remotely the rushing yards that Lamar Jackson has. So I think when you factor in the rushing yards and the possibility that the Rams could still have wins over Packers, Bengals. I'm sorry, the Ravens could still have wins over the Packers, Bengals, and Rams. Back-to-back weeks, they play those 3 teams. Jackson could have a chance to win, especially if the Ravens do win 12 or even 13 games. I do need higher than 16-1. So yeah, that's NFL. We'll go through some more player futures and the division futures and stuff tomorrow. I mentioned golf was a mess this weekend. The Joburg Open was over after 36 holes. And with this new COVID stuff coming out of South Africa, the DP World Euro Tour, whatever they're calling it, canceled the next event scheduled for this weekend. And now the South African Open in 2 weeks is a Sunshine Tour local field event. So golf is more or less done for the rest of the year, sadly. There's the Hero World Open, whatever, is a non-PGA event with the PGA field in the Bahamas this weekend. It's a 20-man field headed again for the 3rd time in about 3 months by Rory McIlroy and Colin Morikawa, both at 8-1. There are official world golf ranking points for this, but nothing. It's not PGA related. There's some stuff going on with golf with the Bonesaw International in Saudi Arabia is being co-sanctioned with the Asian Tour, and a bunch of PGA guys are scheduled to play. Dustin Johnson, Bubba Watson, Phil Mickelson, all the guys you expect to show up for Middle Eastern appearance fees. But with the co-sanctioning with the Asian Tour, they're trying to avoid basically pissing off the PGA and being suspended. So there's this whole issue going on there. We'll probably talk more about it this week as I read more about it. But there's a whole thing going on with the Saudis trying to start their own golf thing, and the PGA saying, no, we're the only game in town. But golf is basically a mess going into the end of the year. These tournaments in South Africa got real screwed up, and it was supposed to be a real nice 3-week swing to end the year down in South Africa, and now it's looking like a 1 week mess with some losses and 2 weeks off. So I'm actually fine with that. I'm not super into the Hero Open or next week's QBE shootout or whatever it is. We'll still go through them and see if there's anything to bet, because there's always stuff to bet. And we'll get into baseball tomorrow. We'll start some off-season baseball stuff, talking about the free agent signings. And we'll get into baseball cards. I have a giant box of unopened baseball cards behind me that all need to be open. We'll start opening them. We'll go through NFL player futures. And we'll go through the college football championship game previews, see if there's anything good to bet this weekend. Hopefully find a couple winners this weekend. Get back on track. It's been a pretty good couple weeks, so you lose a little bit. You have a couple bad games, some stuff happen. It's not the end of the world, but sure would like to win some more games. Nothing nothing like winning. It's what we're here to do. So we'll be back tomorrow.